We always say don't judge the book by the cover, but in reality, first impressions are completely based on your appearance. The environmental footprint of fashion industry is pretty huge. So one t-shirt is equivalent of the same amount of water that you would drink for 2.5 years. If we're looking at statistics, on average, we wear our garments only 7 times. What AI did in that case, it basically expanded your mind a little bit, gave you choices. Why do I need to encourage the industries to produce more? Why wouldn't I participate in circular economy?
That is Julia Dietmar, co-founder and CEO of OpenWardrobe in Redwood City, California in the USA. Julia is a certified image consultant with a degree in computer science from UC Berkeley and an MBA from INSEAD, and has over 20 years of experience in retail tech, having served as Chief Product Officer at Vue.ai and leadership roles at Walmart, eCommerce, thredUP, and Yahoo. She is passionate about blending data-driven insight with personal style expertise to help people dress better, buy less, feel great doing it, all while keeping clothing out of landfills. My name is Peter Marcus Bach, and this is the Grand Challenges Podcast, a show about inspiring individuals who are stepping up to tackle the global challenges that our world is facing in their own unique ways. We reflect on the many out-of-the-box ways our guests have navigated the complexity and intricacies of the environment at the cutting edges of science, engineering, technology, and design. On today's show, Julia and I discuss current sustainability challenges in the fashion industry and uncover key human psychology traits behind clothing. We find out how she is leveraging the power of AI through her platform at OpenWardrobe to help people create connection, get more from the clothes they already own, and promote circular economy by turning every closet into a climate solution. Detailed information is provided in the show notes over at petermbach.com/podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and please enjoy the show. Hey listeners, just before we start, our guest Julia has a special offer for you. Style Blueprint is your shortcut to dressing better without overthinking it. It's a personalized plan that helps you discover the colors, fits, and brands that actually work for you, all backed by expert stylists and smart AI. Whether you're starting a new job, getting back out there, or just want to feel more put together, Style Blueprint makes it simple. And it comes with masterclasses and a workshop to help you put it into action. Listeners of this show can get 20% off with promo code TGC. Go to openwardrobe.app/style-blueprint/men or /women to get started. Fill out a short questionnaire and use promo code TGC. That's TGC for the Grand Challengers. And feel confident every time you get dressed. Links and more information in the show notes. Now let's get back to the show. It's looking very nice and comfortable where you are, Julia.
It is. It's getting really cold outside. We even have snowing forecast already, but it's super cozy here. I love this place. This is our little sanctuary. And when I come here, my stress just melts.
Yeah. So beautiful little cabin background all the way in California, I believe.
Lake Tahoe, California, yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, welcome to the show, Julia.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you here. And you just reminded me of the last time I went to California, which was something like 10 years ago now. Remember that trip really fondly, but I haven't been back since. So I think I'm overdue for a visit.
You're definitely overdue. You should come. A lot of things have changed, but a lot of things have stayed the same. And if you do come, try to make your way to Lake Tahoe. It's gorgeous up here.
I'll definitely take that recommendation. I do like myself some nature from time to time. And yeah, like I said before we started recording, I think my wife will be very jealous of that little fireplace you've got behind you. But good to have you here. And we'll be diving into a topic that actually only featured very briefly on a previous episode of the podcast, but it seems to be a trend that's now emerging on the Grand Challenges podcast, and that is fashion. So for listeners, if you want to start tracing that trend, you can check out episode 51, where we looked at t-shirts for biodiversity and conservation. But here we're going to get deep into the topic of fashion and sustainable fashion. So really looking forward to hearing your insights, Julia.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about it. This is the topic I can talk about for a very long time.
I love that. We all have that one topic where we can just spend hours on.
Yeah, might be a long episode.
But I think one best way to start that off with is, I guess, my own experience with fashion. And I must say, this year I've started to embrace style a bit more. I think people would be shocked to see, but even before that, my first encounter of fashion and what you wear, or you are what you wear, which is really the quote, comes from actually a book that I studied back in school. And it was actually very appropriate given I'm in Switzerland. It was actually a Swiss novelist who wrote this book, Gottfried Keller. And the book's title in German is Kleider machen Leute, or translated in English, Clothing Makes People. And just a quick summary, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but it was basically the idea that this tailor's apprentice, who dresses very well despite being poor, he arrives in this strange town and people start mistaking him for a Polish count because of his appearance. And so he's trying to clear the misunderstanding, but then the daughter of the district administrator then comes around, enters the scene, and then they fall in love. And then, of course, this whole deception continues because he's dressed so well. And then, that goes into all sorts of drama. But at the end, love prevails, as many of these cliche novels sort of tell. But it really highlighted the theme of clothing. And it's very important. People perceive you based on what you wear and how you present yourself. I mean, I don't know if you've read that novel before, but I guess you can, of course, resonate with the message.
I have not read it. I will now, because the message definitely resonates. And it's so true. It's just so true. I've seen it many times in my own life, in people that I work with. We always say, don't judge the book by the cover. But in reality, first impressions are completely based on your appearance. I don't remember the number. I think it says it only takes 4 seconds to form a first impression, something like that. And it's all based on how you look and what you wear and how you present yourself.
Yeah.
So clothing is definitely a big part of it.
And it's practically in our day-to-day lives because we all wear clothing, and how we choose to wear it and what we choose to wear has a very big influence, not just on how we look to others. And they say looks can be deceiving, but also, I guess the most popular one is decision fatigue. You hear that from all the self-help people on YouTube talking about it. Steve Jobs being one of the most common examples. Yeah,
Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Many intellectuals, if you look at the history, they either wore essentially the same thing. So I think Albert Einstein wore only gray suits, and he had like a number of gray suits in his closet. And Steve Jobs had his turtlenecks and his jeans, and we talk about it a lot. How practical is it? I don't know. For women, probably not very. But there are ways to reduce the decision fatigue. And I talked about this. I think you and I even talked about this before, because it's actually a real thing, especially for, all of us. We make thousands of little decisions every day. What to wear is just one of them. And it's probably one of the first ones that you make in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
It can make the whole day either great or super stressful, depending on how that decision goes, right?
That is true. I mean, I remember there are moments I've stood in front of my wardrobe and I thought, which shirt do I wear now? I mean, apart from the fact that I have to then also decide, is that shirt ironed or not? Can I get away with it for the day?
Yeah.
But
I have a funny story for you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
When my son was little, and it was one of those mornings when we were late and I was rushing to get him to school. And so I got dressed, everything was ready. And then as I was rushing out the door, I put my shoes on. So I dropped him off to school and I got to get to work. And I spent probably like a good few hours in front of my computer. And then I decided to get up and go get some coffee. And I turned in my chair. I had one of those swivel chairs, my chairs. I got up and I look at my feet and I'm wearing 2 different shoes.
Oh, no. You didn't feel it from just the way
I did not feel it. I was, and they were both black shoes, but they were different from the different pairs. It was ridiculous, but.
Well, at least the color matched.
Exactly. I just decided to make a fun of it. And I pretended I meant to do it this way.
I mean, there are people who do that. They like to be rebellious. And so they wear different socks on purpose, or, they mismatch colors. But I don't think I have the guts
to do that. That's creative. I'm not that creative.
No, neither am I. I do like a certain sense of consistency. But nevertheless, it is really a world that you discover. And over time, if you're not careful, that decision fatigue gets to you. I mean, from my side this year, I think I've bought in the last 2 years, I think I bought 2 or 3 different blazers. And now I'm actually having trouble trying to find out which blazer I want to match with whatever I'm wearing. So it's very real, but definitely something that I guess keeps you also entertained on a day-to-day basis.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought a nice little experience sharing to get into it, and also something that I can reflect upon quite fondly because it's really piqued my interest in the recent years. I guess, being in Switzerland, you can also, every time you go to Germany or other places on holidays or trips, you can then do some shopping on the cheap, and clothing is just one of the natural things I would choose to get. But other than just buying clothing, I think very important is that we have to be conscious of it as well. And this is where your story comes in, and that I'd like to get into as well. So you didn't study fashion. You're not a fashion designer. You actually studied computer science at UC Berkeley. And then you got an MBA from INSEAD. It's, I looked up what it actually means. It's the Institut Européen d'Administration des Affaires. So a business school, non-profit graduate business school, fairly internationally grounded. So very interesting profile, but then you're in the fashion industry. So how do we make that connection? What's the story behind it?
So, as a consumer of fashion, I was always interested in it. I was a girly girl. I'd like to dress up. I always liked to watch my mother when she was getting ready when I was little. So there was always kind of an interest on a personal level, but professionally, it was never something that I wanted to pursue. And I got into it almost accidentally. So I was a software engineer. I was a coder. And after my MBA, I started working at Yahoo. It was my first product management job out of MBA. And at Yahoo, I got a bit of a little glimpse into not necessarily fashion, but more of a shopping, more kind of a retail side. Because I was working on platforms that we built for Yahoo verticals, and shopping was one of the consumers of that platforms. I worked a lot with them. And then I went to work for a startup that got acquired by Walmart. And that's when I really got into retail. So retail tech was kind of a first thing, and then fashion followed. After Walmart, I went to work for a company in the US here that is it's a marketplace for secondhand clothing. When I got there, it was still, I think they were one of the first. Now we have many of those, right? But specifically for fashion, they were the first. And they sold women's and children's secondhand clothing. There was, of course, eBay, but eBay is everything. They were specific to clothing.
More specialized, yeah.
And that's, very specialized. And I was the first head of product. They were still a startup at the time. And that's how I got not only into fashion, but into circular economy. So that was kind of my first clothing related proper position. And then, interestingly enough, after that, I went into a deep tech company. But that company had 90% of our customers were in fashion and apparel. So I worked with many fashion brands around the world. We were building AI for personalizing consumer experiences online. And because it was based on computer vision, it was very well positioned for fashion. And then we started doing generative AI before anybody even talked about generative AI.
Okay.
It was a long time ago, it was 2017, but by AI standard, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, we did virtual try-ons and all of those things. We were one of the first companies doing that. And that's when I really got to understand fashion brands, because I worked with them pretty closely. I was a lot in Italy. I was a lot in London, working with all these brands and really understanding the issues. And most of them came down to, how do I understand my customer better? How do I really figure out what they want, what they don't want? And it's a very difficult problem to solve.
No, that's very true. And it's becoming more personalized as well.
Absolutely. So it's really how it started. And OpenWardrobe was kind of a natural progression from it.
And you've kind of, you've summarized 20 years of experience. Listeners realize this is a huge treasure trove of experience that you've gained over time as well to get to where you are now with OpenWardrobe. And yeah, I guess also alongside that experience, you got to observe how consumer markets have shifted from the old style retail shops to online sales at a more generic level, but now to very highly personalized experiences. I mean, are these sort of the big eras in shifts or technological changes that we've seen in, I guess, consumer markets for products?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you even look at the secondhand market, that market has exploded. It's still growing. Secondhand market in clothing, especially luxury, because now if I am somebody who loves fashion and I would love to wear Chanel and Dior, but I cannot afford to buy it in their boutique, it's now becoming more affordable buying secondhand. We always had, I remember even when I was growing up, there were vintage shops, there were consignment shops, but they were always very small boutiques. You needed to know where are the good ones, where are the bad ones. You couldn't just go online and search for stuff, right? So now everything is just there. And the problem is becoming, how do you find those nuggets of gold, if you will, in this huge inventory? Because if you go to any marketplace, it's amazing how many items they have. It's millions and millions of items. So if I apply all of my filters and then if I filter by size, by color, but whatever, it's still so many items that I cannot possibly see in the session. And nobody has time to just endlessly scroll, right?
You kind of want the answer immediately.
So it's becoming almost a problem, because when I got into doing this open wardrobe, I myself became a lot more mindful about what I buy, what I don't buy, how I wear stuff. And part of that journey is, of course, getting rid of things that I don't serve me anymore. And that means reselling. And I'm trying many different platforms because we are, as part of the business, we're partnering with Poshmark, is again another marketplace in the US. There will be more coming, but I had to try them all. And the items don't sell like hotcakes. You would think, oh, I'm going to list it. Somebody will buy it. Even if it's $10, $15, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
People need to find it first.
That is
before
true.
They buy it. It's difficult.
And there'll usually be multiple options. And so, it's just, what do you choose? And again, decision fatigue. That seems to be an ongoing theme today.
Exactly.
No, definitely. But I guess, the evolution of, the clothing industry, the fashion industry, lots of interesting decision points that are made, as well as changes to how things are done. But also, listeners must be thinking, well, this is the Grand Challenges podcast. I mean, what is the grand challenge that we are tackling here? And you've kind of mentioned a key word already, which is circularity. And I think it's nice to maybe shed some light on the sustainability issues in the fashion industry, so that, we better understand really where we're at and what the market has become. And so I guess when you have, and you've spoken to many fashion brands as well, there is a life cycle for a particular garment that you wear, but it also starts from when you even source the material to make it to where it's then manufactured. And I've seen a video once before, I can't remember where it was, but it was about a bag where they make a lot of it in China and they put some finishing touches in Italy, and then that allows them to say it's made in Italy.
Made in Italy, yeah.
So even though it says that, doesn't mean that it's only made in one location.
Correct.
As the simplest, way to kick things off. But illustrate for me, just how big is that value chain or that supply chain, for garments, for fashion items?
It's pretty big. So years ago, I have visited a textile mill in India. And that particular textile mill, they do everything starting with raw materials to finished garment. And that was the first time in my life I saw the end-to-end process of a garment in a single period of time or place. So they start with wool, they make yarns, then they dye it, then they dry it, then they make the actual fabric from it. Fabrics sometimes have patterns, so they weave it, and then they make the material. So if you think about, and those mills do exist, but I don't know how common that is. It's typically done in stages, and then it's typically propagates from one stage to another and through different businesses. So if you think about how many just people touch your garment before it gets to you, it's mind-boggling.
Okay.
So now I know in Europe, there are regulations that require brands to expose this supply chain and traceability to the consumer. So you probably have seen, we don't have many of that in the US, but in Europe, I've seen anything that's manufactured has some sort of, they call them digital passports. It can come in the form of a QR code or something that you can scan with your phone. And it tells you where the cotton grew, where, the farmer who grew it. And it can basically give you all of the information, which I think is very important for us, right? If we want to make better decisions. So this, and the supply chain for the garment industry, I'm not sure if I'm correct. Retail, I know that for sure. Retail as an industry in the world, I think is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, employers in the world, right? So if you just think fashion and how many steps there are down to somebody in the store is actually stocking it and selling it, how many jobs that provides along the way.
Yep, definitely a lot.
So there's a lot of criticism about overproduction, and I'm on board with all of that, right? So we're definitely overproducing, and we can talk about who and how we can mitigate this. But along the way, a lot of people are involved in the process. So there is something to be said about, can we produce less but produce better so that everything we produce is actually sold to people who love it and use it. And along the way, the supply chain, we're basically making the life of everybody involved in the supply chain better by not discarding whatever we produce and we throw it out, because then it becomes very expensive. But if we produce better, we sell most of what we produce, not only 30%, or 70%, because 30% is never sold.
Yeah.
So how does that affect the rest of us?
I mean, that's already a mind-boggling process to just go from the raw material to the item in the shop. And as you said, there's different stages along the way. And then if we think in terms of environmental impact, it's not just the material, but transporting the product in between processes to different areas. I mean, I'm sure that in most cases, it's not going to be produced in a single location. There may be some location changes along the way as well. Like the example with finishing the bag in Italy. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We didn't even talk about transportation and all of that. And then, of course, if you're shipping it online, how much more of the carbon footprint is added to that garment?
That is true. When it's very well-traveled clothes, because they went from multiple countries, maybe more than the person buying it in the first place. Yeah. But, that's only one part of the puzzle. When we think life cycle, it's also from wearing it to the, disposal of the clothes, or at least recycling, which is what we hope. And as you mentioned already, we're trying to produce better quality clothing. So hopefully with longer lifespan so that we can keep it longer and that it doesn't degrade as quickly. I certainly have had experiences with t-shirts, which after 3 washes just don't fit or look weird. So there's a whole can of worms that we can open there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I looked up some stats. And just by reading those stats, I was already quite shocked at just how big this industry is, but also what that environmental footprint of the industry is. So, I guess for one aspect, and people love to take numbers and convert the units into something that just gives us a mind-boggling impression. So apparently the equivalent of one garbage truck full of clothes is burned or dumped in a landfill every second. Which is an insane amount. It's like, we've been going in this episode for quite some time now. And so you can imagine just the sheer amount of clothing that is then disposed of. Yeah. And that a lot of that ends up also in not just manufacturing, but also in the waste. That results in plastics and microfibers ending up in the water, in the oceans. Obviously, carbon emissions, they currently amount to 2 to 8%, the industry of global carbon emissions, but also the water use as well. Supposedly 215 trillion liters of water per year. I mean, as a water engineer, I kind of can make sense of that number, but for those who are not as familiar, that's 86 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Now, these are stats from the UN Environment Program, but also the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So there were some studies done there. I mean, what other mind-boggling stats can you offer? And I guess what gives us the urgency to act?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about how much water, since you brought up water, it takes to produce one t-shirt. from raw material to a garment. So one t-shirt is equivalent of the same amount of water that you or me would drink for 2.5 years.
Wow. For one t-shirt?
For one t-shirt.
So I can decide to not wear it and have water for the next 2.5 years, or decide to wear the t-shirt and oh my God. Wow. That's an insane amount.
It is an insane amount. So yeah, it's environmental footprint of fashion industry is pretty huge, but it's something that we all need to wear clothes, right? And I've had these conversations with people. They're like, so what do? Like, how can we mitigate this? And my answer is, it's really, you need to weigh your benefits against the problems it's causing, right? So if you're hungry and you need to go to a store, get some milk and bread, and the store is 5 miles away, you need to get in a car and drive there. And if your car is not electric, it will burn gasoline and, right? So do you go hungry, or do you do this, right? So it's always benefits against the issues that we're causing. So yeah, we just need to be a little bit more mindful on how we approach our purchases when it comes to clothing specifically, how we approach our use.
Yep.
And what would we decide to do for ourselves? That's the only thing we can do as consumers.
And I guess, the most important thing about this is having the awareness and doing your part. I mean, we're not trying to tell people to wear the same clothes for the next 10 years
Absolutely
and not buy
not.
anything. But I guess it's, as you said, it's that consciousness to be more conscious about, what your potential footprint is, or if you can improve it incrementally, I guess. If everyone in the world does a little incremental part, I think we can make giant leaps already. So it's often the sum of the effects.
Here's another stat for you.
Yeah.
We have today already produced and existing in the world enough garments to clothe the next 6 generations of people on the earth.
6?
6.
Jeez. Wow.
So if we just stop and think about that, that makes us, or that should make us say, why do I need to encourage the industries to produce more? Why wouldn't I participate in circular economy, since we were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
So why don't I see what's already out there that maybe somebody else is done with and I can reuse? And by the way, if you go on those marketplaces for secondhand, there are a lot of garments that have never been worn.
Okay.
They're typically marked new with tags.
Okay. Because they buy them thinking that they will wear them, and then, I don't know, they don't fit anymore, or the preference changed over time.
The preference changed over time. You buy them on the final sale and it doesn't fit. You buy them on impulse because, it looked good on the model and the picture, but it doesn't look as great on me. Or even in many cases, brands themselves, and now it's becoming a little bit better, but brands who are not super high end, who are not trying to maybe protect their brand value, the overstock they send to this off-price retailers, or they send to even secondhand retailers.
Yeah.
And that is much better than burning everything, right?
True. Giving a second chance to the garment.
Exactly.
When we first met, you also gave me a very interesting stat of, I guess, being aware of the clothes you do have. And it's about how many wears it takes for it to then be, I guess, sustainable, or at least to fully use a garment. So what was that number?
That number was 30.
Yeah.
So if you wear one garment 30 times over, doesn't really matter how many months or even years, that is kind of by definition becomes sustainable. I don't know where the number 30 came from and why it's 30 and not 29 or 31, but that's the number we're kind of going with. And if you think about it, 30, on one hand, it's not a huge number. It should not be difficult to wear something 30 times. And of course, if we're talking about basics, it's easy, right? So t-shirts and undergarments. But if we're talking about kind of shirts and something that is more trendy and fashionable, it may sound like, 30 times, it's a lot. It shouldn't be a lot. But if we're looking at statistics, on average, we wear our garments only 7 times. So 7
Only
is
7.
far from
Okay.
30. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So some garments are bought and worn once or twice. Some are bought and never worn, unfortunately.
And they factor into the stats as well, I
And
guess.
they factor on the stats, of course, because, and if I even look at the data from our own users, it's very true. That is something that we are actually giving people an ability to track how much they wear something. And then there is this statistic that is kind of becoming popular on social media. We call it cost per wear.
Cost per wear. Okay. Yep.
Cost per wear. So you buy something and you pay $100 for it, let's say, and then you wear it 100 times, your cost per wear is only $1. But if you buy something else for $100 and you wear it only 2 times, your cost per wear is $50. So same 2 garments with same price, your cost per wear is very different. And that is something that is a very good thing to look at if you look for quality in garments.
True. I was actually thinking that too. Like if you buy something for $100 and then you can only wear it 5 times because it starts degrading so quickly, that's also an indication of the quality of the garment, and maybe the pricing is not appropriate.
Exactly.
Actually, I've heard of this kind of use of cost per something or cost per use before. I think I was a bit younger then, but I was considering buying certain electronics, and then I was weighing up the price based on how often I would use the gadget. So I think it's a very nice way of thinking, because as a consumer, it makes you conscious about how much you're going to pay for it versus what it's going to bring you. And this is where clothing, I think, has huge potential to then reduce that cost per wear over time compared to many other things that we also spend money on. So very nice addition to that. Didn't think of that in this context.
Yeah.
But as we said, many end up in secondhand shops. People do bring clothing to the secondhand shops. And yet I looked up one of these stats for clothing recycling, but apparently less than 1% of materials used to produce the clothing is recycled into new clothing. So everything else is ending up in landfill as a result. And that is a very huge proportion.
Not necessarily. The recycled textiles are used in other things, like pillow stuffings. It doesn't necessarily need to become clothing.
Okay.
It becomes other products. So pillow stuffing, synthetic, or not necessarily synthetic, but rugs sometimes are made of recycled textiles.
Yep.
Other things that need those fibers in. So that happens, but landfills is a big one. And we in the Western world, we kind of tend to send our garbage, forgive the word, to third world countries, right? There have been documentaries and books and articles about this. In African countries, there are markets and markets of basically our discarded clothing. So whatever they can resell, they try to resell, which is great. That's good. Yeah. That's at least somebody will use it. But then eventually it does end up on the beach somewhere in the landfill. And we've seen those pictures, right? We've seen those visuals.
Yeah, you just have to Google it and you will see often when you see landfills, I think a lot of the colors that you will see in the landfills will come from a lot of discarded garments. At least that's my impression, because it looks like a cloth when I see these pictures. But at least it's nice to know that there is some form of passing it on for further use and trying to maximize these, as you said, 30 wears, even if not by the same person. So it's definitely an optimistic thing. And so, being more conscious about what you wear and also what you buy especially is really the focal point of OpenWardrobe, which is the company you have now. And you're really pushing towards that more conscious uptake of fashion and also wardrobe choice. So you've alluded to this a bit already, and I'd love to get into that in a bit more detail now. Tell me, what does OpenWardrobe do? What is the mission of OpenWardrobe?
Yeah, we call it Platform for Mindful Dressing.
I like that.
What it does, it allows you to digitize your wardrobe. So basically you take your pictures of your clothes. We give many other methods of digitizing your wardrobe. So if you buy something online, you can import it very easily, immediately. But from millions and millions and millions of pictures that our users have uploaded, 93% of them come from people actually taking pictures of their clothes. which makes sense because you want to digitize what's already in your closet.
Yeah.
We make it super easy because it's all AI powered, and all you need to do is take a picture. Everything else is done by our AI. It catalogs it, it categorizes it, it extracts colors and everything. So that becomes very easy for you to track.
This is where the computer science knowledge comes into play.
That's one of it. Yeah. And then from there, you can do many different things, right? So you can create outfits, you can track wears, and then that's where all statistics are coming from. So when you create your outfits, you log your wears, then you can visualize what I wore on any given month or day or week.
Oh, wow. On a daily basis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which items are kind of my hard workers that I can wear in many different ways and many different outfits, like very versatile. Mm-hmm. Which items are not being worn. So now all of a sudden you have visibility into that. Your cost per wear per category. We have so many statistics, like some people who love to geek out about numbers, they can get pretty much any stat they want about their wardrobe. So one of the popular ones is, how is my investment balanced against the usage per category? So for example, I spend the most on shoes, let's say, but I also wear shoes the most. Or I spend a ton on evening wear, but I hardly wear that because I don't go out that much. So that's very interesting. And then there's an element of kind of social connection. So OpenWardrobe, it was in the name from the very beginning. So the idea was that I can open my wardrobe to you. If you're my stylist, let's say, or my friend with whom I kind of do clothing exchanges.
And it's your stylist anyway, right? Because normally you always ask your friend for the style advice.
Yeah, exactly. So we can style each other. We can get ready together. And it's becoming very interesting. And then there are other aspects. So we also provide quote unquote education. I said quote unquote because, education is a serious word and we're not doing it very seriously.
Okay.
So it's really educating you in how to approach buying clothes or even getting dressed for yourself, right? So how do we're all different, right? So sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced it. I definitely experienced it. I see something on a friend or I see something on the model, on the picture, and it looks amazing. And of course, you probably have heard the term aspirational shopping, right? That's how brands approach that. You want to shop aspirationally because you want to look like that model.
That is me all the time. I mean, I remember there are many holidays I walk with my wife along the streets and I see this beautiful shirt. And I just look at her and she's just staring at me blankly because it's like, you don't fit in that shirt. Don't even try it on. I don't even want to see you in that shirt. So yes, I fully understand aspirational shopping. I think that's me.
And what that results in, excuse me, when we shop aspirationally without thinking, would it look good on us? Because we just look at it. I want to look like that. That's why I want to buy it. Then you buy it and then you bring it home. And, and then sometimes, and I've had that also, if you go into a shop, a physical location, and you actually try it on there, and then you stand in front of the mirror and you're like, and then there's some very helpful sales. Oh, it looks amazing. And you're like, really?
Sounds familiar to me. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So you bring it home and then all of a sudden, it does not look as well as you don't look in this garment as well as you thought you would look. And you don't. And what does that do? What that does is it affects how you feel.
Yeah.
Right.
This is true.
And immediately, especially with teenage girls, right? The immediate thought is, something's wrong with me.
It has a big psychological effect.
It has definitely a huge psychological effect. So what we're doing is we are providing you with tools that allow you to understand how well it will suit you. Anything will suit you.
Incredible.
Okay. So is the color right for you? Or shade of the color, I should say, because anybody can wear any color. It's really the shade of the color that matters. Yeah. Is the shape going to fit your body? Does it even fit your personality, your style personality?
Okay.
Because that's also a big factor. And then it's basically you stop stressing. So for example, I look horrible in anything yellow or orange, but I love that color. Like, I love that color. And it was always like, why doesn't it look good on me? It looks good over there and then not here. And it's just, you just stop stressing if you know, right? If you know.
Yeah. I mean, your skin tones play a big role with the color combinations as well. I've certainly encountered that in my own clothes shopping. So yeah, and then sometimes you're not sure. Like, you're sitting in the store and you're like, should I get it? I really always wanted, in my case, I took a long time to buy white pants. And actually I realized at some point that once I, finally got one, that I really liked it. But just the ruminating over it on multiple occasions while I'm in the shop saying, I found the pair that fit, but I'm not sure. I think having an app like that would be extremely helpful. But I guess when you say personality, I mean, there is a lot of data that then goes into this. As you mentioned, it's AI powered. So it's not just what's in the wardrobe already. Is there also more personality based questions? Do you survey the users to then understand what their kind of desired, I guess, persona or profile that they want to, that they want to give out to society? Yeah. Do you try to survey those aspirations as well?
So our personality assessment is based on, it's basically just 10 questions. And what it gives you is it gives you all of your style personalities that show up.
Okay.
Because we are different. So you can't be the same personality all the time. There are people like that, but it's very rare. Actually, the guy who trained me on image consulting and style, because when I started OpenWardrobe, I actually went and got trained on personal styling and color, and because I needed to know how to train AI, right? So that person, he was like classic all the way. Like, he was very, very, so classic is one of the personalities.
Okay.
But typically we have 2 or 3, sometimes more, but there are always like 2 or 3 that are dominant. And you can be one at home, different at work, and your work, what you do for a job, really affects that. Because let's say if you are a baker, you will wear a suit, you will wear something very tailored and classic. But if you're a teacher in a kindergarten, you probably want something comfortable. You want something that you can spill the paint on, like when kids are touching you with, right? And not care about it. So it's very different. So we give you kind of those glimpses into your style personality. And then what we do is we tell you which brands kind of match your personality. So when you do go shopping, at least that aspect is already taken care of.
Nice. Interesting. So definitely very exploratory. And I guess the user can then attempt to try certain styles to see how they suit. And then, from there on, you just make the chain through the network of data that you've got to guide them in the right direction to get those garments and to match it with what they've got, or to identify especially the gaps in their wardrobe so they can then adopt that style in future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Guiding the user through it.
We have tools also for when you shop, because obviously, we all need to get stuff. I don't want to say new clothing. I want to say new to us, whether you're shopping on secondhand or you're shopping, it doesn't matter how you shop. But we have this little tool. It's just a Chrome browser extension. And when you shop online, you can access your wardrobe, your digitized wardrobe, and our AI from any website. So what that does is when you are on the site of your choice and you're looking, let's say, at a shirt or a sweater, you can immediately say, show me how I could wear it with the clothes I already own. And it starts spitting out outfit combinations for you.
Nice.
And what that gives you, it lets you visualize how many different ways you can wear it. And that goes to that number 30. Like, will I be able to wear it 30 times at least, right? Or not. Then it can give you can actually ask the question, does it suit me? And it'll say yes, no, maybe. And if it's a maybe, it'll give you suggestions on how to style it to make it a yes. So it's basically just very, very practical set of tools to help you dress more mindfully. That's all it is.
Yeah, part exploratory, part optimization, but really based on some of these, even if we're not entirely sure of, where the sources are of the indicator, like the number 30, but at least using the data and knowledge or the quantitative evidence that we have to guide the decision making and to, I guess, make people more conscious of the fashion choices that they make, but also still catering to their desires.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating stuff. And I definitely have to try this out. You can get this app on your website, right? What versions are available and how does it work? Like, how do you get started?
So we have a mobile app. It's actual mobile application. And we also have a web app. So some people prefer to use a big screen, big computer on their laptop. So if you go to our website, it's www.openwardrobe.co. And from there are links to download or sign up. And it's kind of easy. You can see what features are available and some testimonials.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll put that link in the show notes so that the listeners can check it out. I mean, I certainly have had my first experience, not intended, but I had my first experience with having AI help me with my fashion choice. And that was ironically when I was redesigning the cover for this podcast, which came out this year. So the new cover switched over a few episodes ago. But I was putting in some images of myself for the large language model to generate an alternative design of the cover. And then it actually generated me with a solid blue shirt. And I was wearing a different kind of blue shirt with a white pattern. So I had a full solid blue, navy blue shirt. And I looked at it and I thought, hey, actually that suits, that looks well. And just a few weeks ago, I got my first solid blue shirt and I wore it and I'm very happy with it. It's not quite the one I'm wearing now. Listeners can't see it because we're audio only. But yeah, that was certainly a very interesting experience and how helpful AI can be in such kinds of choices. And in a way, you're using generative AI, but also computer vision. It's really the marriage of both, right? To guide these.
Exactly. Yeah. Can I ask you a question about the blue shirt?
Yeah, sure.
If you had not seen it, would you have gone and bought yourself a blue shirt?
No, I would not have.
Okay. So what AI did in that case, it basically expanded your mind a little bit, gave you choices.
Interesting.
Right? So that is how we are approaching this. So our AI has a name, and it's a she. Her name is Lola. It's Lola AI, and she's designed to do exactly that. Okay. So when she is giving you outfit combinations with clothes you already have, it's really just designed to open up your horizon, so to speak, and get you a little bit more creative so that you can reuse more of what you already have. Yeah,
I can certainly agree that that's what happened. And in this particular context, I know that generative AI has given me that more open mindset and ability to explore different angles. And that's primarily how I use it. But then I think now everyone is trying to figure out, what is the real use of generative AI when it can help you with the knowledge at its hands? And this is really, it's really one of those examples. And if you haven't experienced it yourself, listeners, really try it out. I mean, we used to have these apps and computer games where you can dress up characters, and some people try to create a character that's very close to them. But it's different when you see really yourself. They call it the uncanny valley as well. It starts to look too realistic, but it's incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Google released this virtual try-on feature on the Google Shopping.
Okay.
So now, I don't know if it's available in all countries, but, it's one of the benefits in being in Silicon Valley. We get a front seat to pretty much anything new. So go try it out on Google Shopping. If you shop for clothes, very often it'll have like a little icon saying try it on.
Okay.
And you can upload a picture of yourself and it'll show you how it will look on you.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, lots of very neat tools now. And I guess, the hope is that they really give us more, allow us to make more conscious choices about what we buy, and then using them as well, as you mentioned, for the 30 times. And so with Lola at your fingertips, I think that that should hopefully change at least something in how we consider our fashion choices.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, you also have a podcast where you talk to Lola. There's a small series.
Yeah. This is just completely became as a fun project. I was talking to a colleague of mine and I was like, what if Lola had a voice? How would she sound?
Interesting.
And what would she say? So it's a bit cheeky. It's kind of, fun. She's not serious at all. And she gives out some practical advice. So we introduced, like Barbie has Ken. So we now have
yes.
somebody for Lola,
Okay.
just so that she's not by her lonesome.
Oh.
And and they have conversations and they talk about fashion, and that's it's just kind of a fun little thing.
I think, getting into it with character, I think that also gives a bit more of an attachment from people using the app to it. But do you plan on making Lola more voice assisted in the future, or is she already voice assisted? Yeah.
She's not voice assisted in the app, but we have big plans for her.
Oh, very nice. And so how's the reception been with Lola so far?
It's interesting. It's been mostly people love her. Some people saying, oh, she's putting out outfits that are like super weird and out there.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. It's really based on, first of all, it's based on what you upload, right? If you upload bad pictures, your outfits will probably not going to be as amazing. But as I said before, it's been designed not to hand you perfect outfit for you every time, because for perfect outfit for me would not necessarily be a perfect outfit for someone else because of our different personalities, right?
Very true.
But it's designed to open up your creativity, so to speak, right? Just get creative, look at the possibilities. And most people who love it, their biggest feedback is, oh my gosh, I would have never put those things together in an outfit. But when I saw it and then I tried it on, I'm getting so many compliments now. So they become more creative. And that is the whole idea and the whole goal for us.
And I think sometimes it also helps you get over, the shyness or any worries you may have of appearing weird to others. I think it gives you at least a bit of a push to be different, to put yourself out there and show your uniqueness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said in the beginning, clothing is all about how you want to show up. You can express yourself through what you're wearing without having to speak.
Yep. Because as you said, it takes 4 seconds for someone to then make an impression of you. And that's usually, upon first look.
Exactly.
So, looks can be deceiving, but still looks can also paint a very powerful message.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So apart from the plans to give Lola a voice, where are you heading to next with OpenWardrobe?
Just more things around communities. So we want to expand our community features. Since we have this open wardrobe concept and opening wardrobes to each other, we want to give more people a chance to either collaborate or to just ask advice or stuff like that. So community features is something that we're looking into. Interestingly enough, and that happened completely organically, it wasn't even part of the plan at the very beginning, personal stylists whose job it is to dress people, they started using app as their tool of a trade. They manage their clients' wardrobes. So we might be giving a bit more functionality to people who actually use it to do their job. So, yeah.
And I guess in retrospect, they also give you valuable information from years of experience in that industry as well that allows you to improve the workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with many personal stylists now around the world. And it's very interesting to see how different parts of the world approach clothing, and their feedback is very valuable to us.
No, definitely. Now I'll have to check out the app right after this show. I'm sure my wife and I can have some fun documenting our clothes and then doing a bit of stats. I mean, I'm a data person. I also work in a data-driven industry. And for me, it's very important. Without the data, how are you going to know for certain what your decisions are going to yield? I guess from someone who's been across computer science, business, but also fashion, what's your experience with data-driven versus how things have been done? And how is the data-driven world going to, I guess, shape how we do things in future?
Yeah, well, everything is data these days, right? So we have so much data about so many things. The problem is not anymore to get data. The problem is what to do with it. And what insights when we can glean out of it. All AI is running on data. That data means that AI. So
that's true.
How do we improve that? And then, of course, some people are very fearful of what data is being collected and how it's being used. But on the other hand, if we give out data to services in exchange for a better service, many times, more often than not, it's really worth it. Sometimes it does become creepy, and like when my iPhone is next to me and I talk to my husband about a trip that we may be taking soon, and all of a sudden I open my phone and I see hotel recommendations at that place or flights for that place.
Yeah, that is
becomes
creepy.
a little
It's happened
creepy.
to me too.
But other than that, it's helpful. Yeah, I mean, data has a lot of power to give us a lot of statistics. What's missing right now is we have a lot of what, but we don't have a lot of why yet. And that is where with the new AI advancements, we're getting whys also. And that will help us optimize a lot of processes. And when we're talking about, we talked about fashion and apparel overproduction, right? How can we reduce that? If we understand why people buy certain things and why they don't buy other things, why they wear something, why they don't wear something else, maybe that will give us a better insight into what to produce next and how much of that to produce.
So I guess tailoring the entire supply chain. So allowing us to be more targeted in what we bring out there or put out there. Maybe even generating the future of fashion. Who knows? People might then generate their own clothing and then order custom made stuff so that we're
that's
not
already
mass
happening.
producing. That's true.
That's
true.
Happening.
I mean, technically it's been happening for centuries because we've had tailors. So,
It's actually a good thing that you brought it up, because I remember I was talking at conferences 5, even 6 years ago when we talked about the future of fashion and personalization, because my previous company, we all work about personalizing experiences online. And I always said, think about how people shopped 150 years ago for clothing.
True.
200 years ago for clothing. You didn't go to a shop and then look through shelves and racks of clothing. You went to your dressmaker. Yeah. You went to your suit maker, and they knew everything about you, not just your measurements, but they knew what you liked, what you don't like. They knew what you had because they've already made clothes for you, and you wore it for years. I remember we don't even have to go 150 years ago. I remember my grandmother.
Yeah.
She had her dresses tailored for her, and she wore those for decades. They were very well made. They were very quality material. And I think that's where my hope is that's where we're going to go.
I feel like, it's a much more sustainable and I guess sufficient way. We're not trying to, be efficient and mass produce, but we're actually trying to say, well, we produce what we need and that is of good quality. And it's tailored to the person itself. So that personalization is there. And I guess it's just a question of, whether that, that kind of maybe decentralization of fashion will gain a resurgence again. It seems like every old technology and every old way of doing things is gaining resurgence in today's world. And maybe with the power of AI, it could be a reason, because we're now being more personalized and we're more direct, telling us what exactly we need. So people don't have to go searching through hundreds of shops or hundreds of options. So that's a very, very interesting time that we're in, especially with the rise of AI. And so I guess we'll see. Time will tell where we're heading in future. But it's certainly been very, very eye-opening to listen to your story and also about how things are changing and where things could head. So Julia, it's been super interesting so far. And like I do with every guest on the show, I'd love to ask you a few more detailed questions so that listeners can get to know even more about you.
Sure.
And so one aspect, especially being in Silicon Valley, the word innovation is thrown around quite a lot. And I guess in addition to that, disruption, which also has appeared a lot more in this question in recent episodes. But in your view, what does the word innovation truly mean? And how has it shaped the way you approach challenges and opportunities in your work?
Yeah, to me, innovation is looking at kind of old things in the new ways. That's basically what it is. And it doesn't mean inventing something new every time. It means just applying different things to processes or things that we've done before in old ways. That's all it is. Just fresh look at an old thing, so to speak. And that even applies to clothing, right? Sometimes, you know that saying, the new is just a very well forgotten old. Sometimes I open a drawer and I'm like, oh, I forgot I had this.
Yeah.
And let's take a different look at it. So that's what it means to me.
That was me just 2 days ago. I found some pants I bought, which I hadn't worn yet because it was at the bottom of the pile. And I said, all right, let's wear them. But yeah, I guess, sometimes reinventing the wheel can be innovative because you add new modifications to it. Or as we're seeing now, resurgence of old technology or old ways of doing things, but powered by new ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, very interesting way of looking at it. Was there a key moment, a book, person, or event that completely changed the course of your career or your mindset?
There wasn't one moment or one thing. And everything that when I look at my career, it's all kind of gradual and stepping stones. And when I hear sometimes people like, oh, I read this book and completely changed my life. Unfortunately, I've never had that in my life. But it was always like little aha moment here and there. And it was always more like a river flowing rather than something profound that happened. So I guess the answer would be no. There was not any one thing that changed me. And it was always a gradual change.
Would you like to share a few profound moments, or at least what kinds of moments these aha moments were?
Yeah. So for example, the whole way that I got into what I'm doing today is very gradual, right? We talked about my career progression in the beginning. And now that I'm in it, I have been doing things that I have never thought I would be doing. I'm not a marketer. I'm not social media person, but I kind of have to learn all of that to run my business because we're a super small team. And so there've been books that I've been reading, and there's one book that I read very recently, which was super interesting. It's by a guy called Robert Cialdini.
Okay.
And the book, I've read 2 of his books. So the first book that I've read is actually his latest, or one of the latest. It's called Persuasion.
Persuasion.
Persuasion, yeah.
Not persuasion.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
It's Persuasion. And his earlier book that I read later was called Influence. So all these books, they overlap, but they're designed for consumers. So Influence was written for consumers to be able to resist marketing tactics. It's super interesting. And it's all about psychology and how we react to certain things. And Persuasion was written for marketers. So I thought it was super interesting. So it was not like a huge pivoting point for me after reading these books, but I took some nuggets in how I'm approaching certain things and how I talk to my customers. So it's very interesting. If you have some time, I definitely recommend reading it. So things like that happened throughout my life that matter. And then meeting people. So sometimes you just go to this event, and many times it happened to me. There was an event that I would sign up for, and I'm like, I don't feel like going. And then a friend or somebody is like, oh, let's go. And then you go, and then you meet somebody and you talk about something, and either that sparks an idea or it leads to a different person being introduced to you. And then it kind of changes slightly, not profoundly, but slightly changes the course of what I'm doing or how I'm doing things. So things like that happen to me a lot throughout my life.
The serendipity of meetings, and that just snowballs.
Yeah,
and it's something
exactly.
I've seen so much doing the podcast as well. And it's been such a beautiful experience every time you meet someone and it leads to something new. So definitely.
Yeah.
But I think your stories really shed light on, I think, what many listeners experience. I think some try to wait for that moment. They read the book that changes their life, or they have the one experience. But in many cases, it is really just the sum of multiple experiences over time. And then before you know it, you look back and you're like, wait, how did I get here in the first place?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for the listeners to understand that. And so thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I think it's also a story of hope as well for us, if we're not entirely sure where we're trading.
Yeah. And the saying, the small streams flow into the big river.
True.
That's how it feels like.
That's a very nice visual. And as a water person, I certainly really love that analogy. So, yeah. But of course, now being CEO of OpenWardrobe and doing a lot of these amazing technologies and bringing them out there and constantly finding new ways to innovate, time management becomes an interesting question, of course, especially then when you're choosing what to wear on a daily basis. So what tips and strategies can you offer in terms of time management? How do you maintain a balance between professional and personal time?
Oh, I'm a terrible person to give advice on that. I don't manage. I just work. But one thing that may be unique to me, I don't know how unique that is. I work with my husband. So we work together on the company. So what that means is that our business is always there with us. Even when we are not working, it's always kind of a presence. And we try to disconnect and just kind of go on trips and like watch Netflix in the evenings and not talk about it, but it's always present. So for me, time management is something that I kind of have to do because OpenWardrobe is just one thing that I'm doing. And then there are other projects that of interest that I kind of have to pursue because I need that headspace to be occupied by something else.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I'm not a time guru and I don't have some amazing techniques to offer, but I find that for most of us, it just helps to find that balance and find that routine. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a super early morning person. If you wake me up before my time, I can be very unpleasant.
Yeah.
And so it's really just for me, I need to wake up, at a decent time, like 7:30 is my kind of optimal thing. I need my coffee then. And typically like it takes me an hour or so to get into that. And then I need uninterrupted time to do something, because when I get into the flow, I better stay there, because if I get interrupted, then it's kind of difficult. So everybody's different, right? And everybody needs their own routines and their own things to make it work. So the only thing that I'm a bad person to give advice on that, but I will give that advice, is instead of stressing out that you're not doing enough or you're maybe doing too much, is just like stop stressing and do whatever works. That's all.
Hey, I think that's great advice, because, when you hear it from someone who's built such an incredible business already and is interested in a few others, I'm in my first year of building up my business. So it's nice to, I guess, hear that, to not stress about everything all the time. So yeah, thank you for that. And so, Julia, what is your favorite childhood memory?
Oh, I always loved traveling. So my favorite memories is always with the trips. And when I was little, we didn't go on too many trips, but whenever we went, it was always an adventure. So I loved every moment that I spent traveling. Still to this days, I love flying. I love trains. I just give me a reason to go somewhere and I will go. Yeah. So my favorite childhood trips were with my grandmother. She was from a different state where we lived. And while her mother was alive, she went to visit every summer and she always took me with her. And that was my favorite stuff.
New experiences, new horizons. I certainly can understand that. As a child, I traveled a lot with my parents as well. So yeah, plane rides were always fun. And we were in Singapore at the time. So yeah, you'd have to pretty much fly. You could drive, and I think we did some drives and also boat rides. So I had a bit of exposure to all modes of transport. But flying was always fun. Trains came much later. So yeah. So what was one of the most challenging situations that you've ever faced in your career to date, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I've had few challenging situations. So there was a moment in one of my many jobs where I kind of had to face the decision of doing something that my superiors wanted or not doing it because I didn't feel like it was the right thing. And unfortunately, I went with what they wanted. And at the end of the day, it turned against me. So my advice to people, if anybody's listening, at the end of the day, what matters is how you feel, not what anybody else says. And most jobs are just jobs. So do whatever feels right.
Yeah.
So do whatever will make you feel good about yourself, not what anybody else is expected. It actually took me, that affected me in a pretty bad way and took me a long time to recover from it mentally. But I think I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, I guess you got in touch with yourself and you reinforced what your true values are, and that, from that point forth to stick to them no matter what anyone else says.
Yeah.
I think too often we try to please others, especially if they're superior, and that's often at our own peril. And I guess, just being aware of that and understanding what you yourself value, I think is an important step forward and a first step you can take.
Yep. Definitely. Then when I started my own company, that always was at the back of my mind. So so it was a very good learning experience for me. Very good.
That's also very good advice for the young professionals starting out. So other than that piece of advice, what other kinds of advice can you offer for young professionals, either in computer science or fashion or sustainability starting out?
My biggest advice, and this is what I always tell my son, is have fun. If whatever you're doing is not fun, then stop doing it into something else, because, life is short. Yep. You need to feel good about what you do in life. So have fun. That has been the biggest thing. And unfortunately, many of us are in situations when we have to do something for a paycheck or for some other reasons, and fun does not always factor. But if you are in a position when you can choose, have fun.
Yeah, lovely advice. And something that, I think we all at some point have a stage where we learn that as well. And I've certainly embraced that. So it's good to hear that coming from you as well. So solid advice. And so as we slowly get to the end of this episode, the final question that I ask all my guests would be, what would you most like to be remembered for?
Well, I think if I can make at least one person's life easier in some way, I think that's already good. If at least somebody thinks of me and says, oh, she made my life better or easier or whatever, whether it's professional or personal or whatever that is, that would be a good life.
Beautiful. Hey listeners, just before we wrap up, if you'd like to try out OpenWardrobe's AI-powered platform and set up your digital wardrobe, Julia has a special offer for you. Style Blueprint is your shortcut to dressing better without overthinking it. It's a personalized plan that helps you discover the colors, fits, and brands that actually work for you, all backed by expert stylists and smart AI. Whether you're starting a new job, getting back out there, or just want to feel more put together, Style Blueprint makes it simple. And it comes with masterclasses and a workshop to help you put it into action. Listeners of this show can get 20% off with promo code TGC. Go to openwardrobe.app/style-blueprint/men or /women to get started. Fill out a short questionnaire and use promo code TGC. That's TGC for the Grand Challengers. And feel confident every time you get dressed. Links and more information in the show notes. Now let's wrap up. Julia, where can people find you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, our website is the best. We have a contact info there. By the way, I read every email that is being sent, and I reply to 99% of them. The 1% is probably kind of sales here that I don't reply to.
Only 1% of sales emails.
I'm just making up that number. But there's some that I don't reply to. www.openwardrobe.co. .co, not .com. Just want to stress that.
Yep. And we'll make sure that it's written with the .co. And are you on social media at all?
Yes, we're on Instagram. We're trying to grow that channel, so please follow us. It's Open Wardrobe Official, and also Open Wardrobe Official on Facebook as well.
And we'll definitely put links to that as well as many of the topics we've discussed today. And I've certainly learned a lot. So thank you very much for sharing your wisdom. And just for being so open and really enlightening me as well, and giving me an app that I'm going to have to check out right after this show. But overall, thanks for coming on to the show, Julia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter, for having me. It's been fun.
And like I do with every guest, I always give my guests the final message. So one last word from you for the listeners to take away from today.
Before you buy anything new, just stop and think. Have fun with what you do. And remember that clothing makes the man, as I said in the beginning, right? Clothing makes the man.
Thank you very much. And that wraps up our well-dressed, eye-opening and insightful episode with Julia Dietmar. For more information on opening up your wardrobe, a guide to buying brands on the secondhand market, or details on how you can use AI to improve your style, check out the show notes for more information over at peterandbach.com/podcast. And as always, thank you listeners for tuning into this episode and for your feedback and support. If you are enjoying this show, I would be incredibly grateful if you could share this podcast with your family, friends, colleagues, and even fellow stylists. Subscribe or follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, other podcast channels, or follow the LinkedIn group to stay up to date with the latest releases. If you're curious about me or my work in general, you can also check out my website or social media. Head to peterandbach.com, my YouTube channel, Peter Marcus Bach, that's Marcus with a C, or follow me on X at Peter and Bach or Instagram at peterandbach87. Feel free to reach out to me with any feedback or guest suggestions so that I can keep improving this show. The podcast's intro and outro song is called Starsky by Alex Karen. Stay tuned for our next episode and next guest to hear how they are tackling the grand challenges.